back, and we're going to get into the Rocky series for the Stallone Marathon. So today we're going to talk about and review the first Rocky film. Now, this is the Rocky Heavyweight Collection Blu-ray set that has Rocky through Rocky Balboa. And if I take it out here, this is what it looks like. Now, unfortunately, on the inside, there's a bit of looseness here because it was pre-owned. So it's a little broken on the inside, but the Blu-rays are all good. Now, as far as like features and stuff, the first Rocky may have a couple of features, and Rocky Balboa has some bonus features. I do know that because I've already went back and rewatched the Rocky films, and I was watching a little bit of the features for Rocky Balboa. So, but from Rocky 2 to Rocky 5, there's no features at all. Even to this day, there's nothing for the sequels, which is baffling to me. But yeah, so we're going to talk about the first Rocky film. But what more can you say about the first Rocky film that hasn't been said? I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there, believe it or not, there's some people that have never seen a Rocky film, but they know who the character is. You have people that go to the gym, and somewhere in their playlist is Gonna Fly Now or Eye the Tiger. So it all goes back to Rocky, and it's hard to believe that the first film is almost half a century years old. And it's a film that people still remember, people still talk about, people still relate to the first Rocky. And even after, which I don't want to think about, Stallone not being here, but even after Stallone is long gone, the first Rocky film will live on. 100 years from now, people will still talk about this movie. People will still talk about the character. People will still talk about the relationship between Rocky and Adrian. People will still remember the soundtrack, Gonna Fly Now. And yeah, I mean, there's so many things here, with the first Rocky film that is timeless, because it's a timeless movie. So I don't know how much of a review this is going to be, but more like, kind of like general thoughts. I mean, because it's a great movie. And also, too, you got to think about what it took to get this film made. I mean, this is back in the day, but now you look at Hollywood and the way they operate in the studios, they would never take that risk again on an unknown. Before Rocky, Stallone had done a couple of films, but he was still pretty much an unknown. And we all know the story. He was, at the time, he couldn't afford his rent. At one point, he had to sell his dog because he couldn't afford to feed his dog. And he got the dog back later, but, he was writing this script, and he wrote the script in 3 days, which is crazy. And, the studios, they didn't want Stallone for the character of Rocky. I'm sure at this time they looked at every, A-lister, like, every actor out there, like James Caan or Robert Redford, for the character. But Stallone was adamant. He wanted to play this character. And eventually the studios agreed. And, he played the character. The film went on to be, a big hit, and, end up winning Best Picture, Director, and Editing. And the rest is history. I mean, so, Stallone's determination, I'm surprised, honestly, the more I think about it, with that TV show The Offer, the making of The Godfather, that they haven't done that yet for Rocky, because the story itself is very inspirational, and that would be very interesting to see, like that be done. Maybe it could be like a 10-part series, like a 10-episode series where, it chronicles, the making of Rocky and, Stallone at the time. That would be very interesting to see. So, yeah, I mean, we all know the backstory, what it took for, to get this film made. It was a big risk. It was a gamble. And again, you look at Hollywood now, they would never do that again. They would never, because, they play it very safe. That's how Hollywood is now. I mean, we all talk about this in videos. We all talk about this. Hollywood now, the way they are, they play it very safe. But get into the film itself, the story here. You have a small-time Philadelphia boxer, Rocky Balboa. He gets a rare chance to fight the world heavyweight champion Apollo Creed in a bout in which he strives to go the distance. And that's the story to the first Rocky. But, it's directed by John Avildsen, who would go on to direct The Karate Kid, which is a classic. He also did The Karate Kid Part 2, which is great. And I know he did The Karate Kid Part 3, which I'm not a fan of. But also, I forgot he directed Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman. Great movie. And, of course, right after, he did Rocky 5. But he was still a great director. I mean, he had a couple of films in there that weren't so great. But he was still a great director, and he's definitely missed. And I know he passed away some time back. But what I really enjoy about, the first Rocky film, first off is the cast and the performances. Stallone as Rocky, does a great job as that character. I mean, the character of Rocky is very likable. You can't help but like the character and, root for the character. Of course, in the beginning, he does a little bit of the loan shark business for Joe Spinell's character. And on the side, he's an amateur boxer. You also have the character of Adrian, played by Talia Shire, who's very sweet-natured, very quiet, introverted. And, it's their relationship that really makes the movie. I mean, and it goes back to the question of, is this a love story or is this a boxing movie? To me, I lean towards more, this being a love story, because it is about Rocky and Adrian. Their relationship is, first and foremost. The boxing stuff is sort of in the back. But that's what I love about the first Rocky film, is that it is a love story. And also, too, you have other characters. I mean, you have the character of Mickey, played by Burgess Meredith. You have the character of Paulie, played by Burt Young. And, of course, you have the character of Apollo Creed, played by Carl Weathers, the world heavyweight champion. So a great cast here. And, wonderful performances. The story, it's a great story. And it's very inspirational, where the character of Rocky, gets 1,000,000 to 1 shot. Here's a guy that, again, is an amateur boxer, and the world heavyweight champion gives him an opportunity, to, have this fight. And it's a great underdog story. And also, too, you have to mention the soundtrack. The soundtrack is so iconic that, people to this day still, listen to Gonna Fly Now. They listen to the soundtrack. I mean, almost half a century, later, people still know that, theme. They work out to it. It makes you want to get up out of a chair and go to the gym or go for a jog. It gets you pumped up. It gets you motivated. And so the soundtrack is very iconic. Bill Conti, does a great job here with the soundtrack. And, there's a lot of great scenes in here. I mean, of course, we all remember, Stallone punching the meat, Rocky in the meat locker, hitting the meat, but there's so many great moments here that I can really get into, but it's also hard because, who hasn't talked about this movie? And that's the thing, everybody has seen Rocky. Everybody knows the first movie. It's not hard to review, but there's nothing new that I can really add here because it's a great movie. It's one of these, timeless movies that people have seen, or they have seen 500 times, because it's such a great story and it's very inspirational and it's motivating, and people still remember these characters almost 50 years later. People still remember the relationship between Rocky and, Adrian. And people still remember that love story. People still remember Mickey, and the relationship between Rocky and Mickey. And the character of Apollo Creed, and I mean, there's just so many great things here. And the film still resonates with people after all these years. And people love that underdog story. Now, I will say, for me, I will admit that I prefer Rocky 2 a little bit more. And I don't know how many people out there, do you prefer the first film more or Rocky 2 more? Because I love Rocky 2, but, the first Rocky is still a great movie. Now it's time for my overall thoughts on Rocky. An incredible underdog story that is also inspirational, with wonderful characters, iconic soundtrack by Belcanti, one of the most motivating films ever made, and a masterpiece of cinema. And out of 5 stars, I'm going to give Rocky 4.5 stars. So that is my review of the first Rocky film. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Thank you to Director-Screenwriter for being a patron, and for anyone that would like to support the channel, I'll leave a couple of links down below to my PayPal and my Patreon. PayPal for those that like to request videos, and a Patreon is for crediting. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.